In 1820s England, Lady Beatrice's perfect life shatters when her engagement collapses in public scandal, forcing her to flee to her eccentric aunt's remote cottage. What begins as social exile transforms into intellectual awakening when she meets an Italian doctor who values her mind. But will she choose the safety of conformity or risk everything for a life of passion and purpose? Beatrice stood in front of her mirror. Her room was bright with morning sun. Today was her big day. She was 22 years old, and today everyone would know she was to marry Lord James. Her family had waited for this day for years. "Stand still, miss," said Mary, her maid, fixing Beatrice's hair with small pins. "We want you to look perfect." Beatrice's dress was blue like the sky on a clear day. It had small white flowers sewn all over it. Her mother had picked it out from the best shop in town. It cost more money than Mary would make in 3 years. "There," Mary said, stepping back. "You look like an angel." Beatrice looked at herself. She did look pretty. Her dark hair was up in curls. Her skin was pale and smooth. The blue dress made her eyes look even bluer. She had been told she was pretty all her life. But being pretty was not enough. A lady needed to be proper too. A knock came at the door. It was her mother. "Beatrice, are you ready? The guests are starting to arrive." Her mother walked in and gasped. "Oh, my dear, you are a vision. Lord James will be unable to look away from you." Beatrice smiled, small and proper, just as she had been taught. No big smiles, no loud laughs. A lady must always be in control. "Remember to speak softly," her mother said, fixing a curl that had fallen. "And do not talk of books too much. Men do not like girls who seem too smart." Beatrice nodded. She had heard this many times. She loved to read, but she had learned to hide how much she knew. She would nod and smile when men talked, even when they were wrong. "Yes, mother," she said. Her mother looked her up and down once more. "Perfect. Now come down in 5 minutes. Not too early, not too late." When her mother left, Beatrice took a deep breath. Her chest felt tight in her dress. She walked to her small desk and touched the book hidden there. It was about far-off places she would never see. After today, she would be on her way to being a wife. That was what she was born to do. Mary helped her with her gloves. They were white and came up past her elbows. "Are you happy, miss?" Mary asked. "It's a big day." Beatrice looked at her maid. Mary was the only one who asked what she felt. "I am doing what is right," Beatrice said. That was not the same as happy, but it was all she could say. The party was in the big room downstairs. It had high walls and many windows. Flowers were set all around in big vases. Music played from the corner where 3 men with string things sat. The room smelled of flowers and food and the sweet smell of the punch. Beatrice waited at the top of the stairs. She could see the room full of people below. Ladies in fine dresses and men in dark coats moved around like bees in a hive. They all came from the best homes. They all knew the right things to say and do. She took one step down, then another. People began to look up. She had been taught how to walk downstairs since she was a little girl. Head high, back straight, small steps, smile small. Her father waited at the bottom of the stairs. He was a big man with a red face. He did not smile much, but today he did. Beatrice was his only child. By getting her a lord for a husband, he was moving their family up in the world. "There she is," he said, taking her hand as she reached the bottom. "The most proper young lady in all of London." People turned to look at her. Ladies nodded with tight smiles. Men bowed their heads. Beatrice knew what they all saw, a proper young lady from a good home who was about to make a good match. Lord James stood by the big window. He was 10 years older than her. He was not very tall, but he was from a very old family. He had land and houses. He had a name that went back hundreds of years. That was why he was a good match. He walked to her and bowed. "Lady Beatrice, you look well tonight." "Thank you, my lord," she said, with a small dip of her knees. Her father left them alone to talk, but there was little to say. They had met only 6 times before. She knew he liked hunting and dogs. He knew she could play the piano and speak some French. That was all they knew of each other. "The weather has been fair," he said. "Yes, very fair," she said. They stood in quiet for a bit. Around them the party went on. People laughed and talked. The music played. But between Beatrice and Lord James, there was only quiet. "I look forward to our news being shared," he said at last. "As do I," she lied. She did not look forward to it, but it was the right thing, the proper thing. Her mother rang a small bell. The music stopped. All eyes turned to the front of the room where her father now stood. "Friends," he said in his big voice, "we're so glad you are here. We have happy news to share." Beatrice felt Lord James take her arm. They were to walk to the front together. Her heart beat fast. This was the moment she'd been raised for. This was her path. As they walked, she saw all the faces watching her. Some smiled, some looked with envy. All knew this was how life was meant to be. A good girl from a good home making a good match. This was her place in the world. This was what it meant to be at the top of proper society. To do what was right, not what one wished. To be what others wanted, not what one was inside. Her father's voice rang out. "It gives me great joy to tell you all that Lord James has asked for my daughter's hand in marriage." The room burst into claps. Beatrice smiled her proper smile. Inside, a small voice asked if this was all there was to life, but she pushed that voice down. A proper lady did not ask such things. The big room was full of happy sounds. Ladies and men talked and laughed. The music played sweet songs. Everyone looked at Beatrice with smiles. Her blue dress shone in the light from 100 candles on the walls. This was her special night. "You must be so happy," said Lady Wells, an old friend of her mother. "Lord James is such a fine match." Beatrice smiled the way she had been taught. "Yes, I am very pleased." But deep down she did not feel the joy she should. She looked across the room at Lord James. He was talking to a group of men. He did not look at her. He had not looked at her much all night. The clock on the wall said it was 9. Soon they would have the special toast. Lord James would give her a ring. It would make their promise real. After that there would be no turning back. Beatrice took a small sip of her drink. It was sweet and made her feel a little warm. She wished the night would go faster. She wanted to be alone in her room with her books. Her father walked to the middle of the room. He held up his hands for quiet. The music stopped. Everyone turned to look. "Friends, it is time for the happy couple to make their promise known to all," he said, his voice big and proud. "Lord James, if you please." Lord James walked to the middle of the room, but he did not look happy. His face was hard and cold. Beatrice felt a small fear grow in her chest. Lord James cleared his throat. The room was so quiet Beatrice could hear the clock tick. "I must speak," Lord James said, his voice flat. "There has been a change." A small sound went through the crowd. People looked at each other with wide eyes. Beatrice stood still as stone. Lord James went on. "I have been told some news this very day. News that changes everything." Beatrice's mother moved to her side. She took Beatrice's arm in a tight hold. "What is he doing?" she whispered. Lord James looked right at Beatrice's father. "Sir, I have found out that your money is not what you said. You have lost much in bad deals. The money you promised with your daughter's hand is not there." The room filled with gasps. Beatrice felt her face grow hot. Her mother's hand on her arm got even tighter. "This is not the time or place, my lord," her father said, his voice shaking. "I think it is," Lord James said. "I will not be made a fool. I will not take a wife with empty hands." Beatrice could not move, could not breathe. The room seemed to spin around her. This could not be real. This could not be happening. "You promised me a fine dowry," Lord James went on, his voice getting louder. "You said your gold would help fix my old house. You lied." "Please," Beatrice's father said, his face now red as fire. "We can talk about this in private." But it was too late. The whole room knew. Beatrice's father had lost their money. He had tried to trick Lord James, and now they were all shamed. Lord James turned to look at Beatrice. His eyes were cold. "I am sorry, Lady Beatrice, but I must break our promise. I cannot marry you." The words hit Beatrice like a slap. She stood there in her fine blue dress in front of all the best people in town being thrown away like trash. People began to whisper. She could hear her name in their words. She could feel their eyes on her. Some looked sad. Some looked happy to see her fall. All would tell this story for years to come. "You cannot do this," her mother said, her voice a harsh whisper. "You gave your word." "A word given based on lies means nothing," Lord James said. Beatrice found her voice at last. It came out small but clear. "So, I am worth nothing to you without my father's gold? Lord James had the good sense to look down for a moment. It is not that simple. I think it is, Beatrice said. Her whole body shook, but she would not cry. Not here. Not in front of these people. Her father tried one more time. My lord, please, let us talk this over. I am sure we can come to some kind of deal. But Lord James shook his head. There is nothing to talk about. The promise is broken. He looked at the crowd. I am sorry you all came for nothing. With that, he turned and walked out of the room. The door closed behind him with a sound like thunder. No one moved, no one spoke. Beatrice stood in the middle of the room, all alone. Her life, her future, her good name, all gone in a few short words. Then the whispers grew louder. People began to move away from her family like they had some sickness that might spread. I need to leave, Beatrice said to her mother. I cannot stay here. Her mother's face was white with shock. Where will you go? What will you do? I have an aunt, Beatrice said. Father's sister, the one no one talks about. She lives up north. I will go to her. You cannot, her mother said. She's not proper. She lives like a wild woman. And what am I now? Beatrice asked. I am not proper any more. I am the girl who was thrown away in front of everyone. Her father came to them, his face fallen like an old man's. It's my fault, he said. I tried to fix things. I made bad choices. I thought I could make it right before anyone knew. Beatrice looked at him. She had never seen him look weak before. It's done now, she said. We cannot change it. She turned and walked to the door. She could feel every eye on her back. She could hear the whispers grow. By morning, the whole town would know. The Blackwood family was broke. The Blackwood girl was cast off. At the door, she looked back once. The fine room, the fine people, the life she was born for, all lost now. Then she walked out, her head held high. She would not let them see her break. She had been raised to be a proper lady, and at least in this, she would not fail. Outside, the night air was cold on her hot face. A small rain had started to fall, it felt right. The sky was crying for her since she would not cry for herself. Her aunt had asked her to visit many times. Beatrice had always said no. Her aunt was the black sheep, the wild one who did not follow the rules. Now Beatrice had no rules left to follow. She would go north. She would find a new path. And she would never forget how it felt to stand in that room and be found not good enough, not worth keeping. The rain fell harder. Beatrice looked up at the dark sky and let the drops mix with the tears she could hold back no longer. The coach bumped and swayed on the rough road. Beatrice sat inside, her back straight even though no one could see her. Old ways were hard to break. She had been on the road for 3 days now. 3 days since her life had fallen apart. Outside the small window the land grew wilder. Gone were the neat fields and trim houses of the south. Here the hills rolled like waves on the sea, rocks stuck up from the ground. The wind bent the trees into strange shapes. It was a hard land, a land that did not try to look pretty. Beatrice felt a strange pull to it. She had spent her whole life trying to look pretty, to be what others wanted. Now she was nothing, no one, a girl with no future. The coach driver called down to her. Almost there, miss, see that smoke? That's your aunt's place. Beatrice looked out. On a hill stood a small stone house. Smoke came from the chimney. It was not big or fine like her father's house, but it looked strong, like it could stand against the wild wind and not break. The coach stopped at the bottom of the hill. I can't take you no further, miss. The path is too steep for my horses. Beatrice stepped down. The wind hit her like a slap. It was cold and smelled of rain. She took her small bag from the driver. Thank you, she said. She paid him with some of the money she had saved. Not much left now. Another thing to worry about. The driver looked at her with kind eyes. You sure you'll be all right, miss? This is a rough place for a fine lady. Beatrice looked up at the small house. I am not sure of anything any more, but I have nowhere else to go. The walk up the hill was hard. Her fine shoes slipped on the wet grass. Her dress, made for walking on smooth floors, caught on rocks and bushes. By the time she reached the door, she was out of breath and her hem was dirty. She knocked. No answer. She knocked again, harder. The door opened. A woman stood there. She had grey in her dark hair and lines on her face, but her eyes were bright and sharp. They were eyes that had seen much of the world. "Well," the woman said, "so my brother's perfect daughter has come to see the black sheep at last." Beatrice stood straight. "Aunt Margaret, I need a place to stay." Her aunt looked her up and down. "Your letter said there was trouble. Must be big trouble to send you all the way to me." "May I come in?" Beatrice asked. The wind was getting colder. Her aunt stepped back. "You may, though I warn you I live simple. No fine things here." The inside of the house was small but warm. A fire burned in the stone fireplace. Books were stacked on every table. Maps hung on the walls. It was not like any room Beatrice had ever seen in a lady's house. "Sit," her aunt said, pointing to a chair by the fire. "You look half frozen." Beatrice sat. The chair was old but soft. The fire felt good on her cold face. "So," her aunt said, sitting across from her, "tell me what happened." Beatrice told her story. The words came out flat and empty. She did not cry. She had not cried since that first night in the rain. Her aunt listened without speaking. When Beatrice finished, she nodded. "Men," she said, "always wanting more than they give." "It was not just Lord James," Beatrice said. "It was father too. He lied. He lost our money." "My brother always did reach too high," her aunt said. "Never happy with what he had." She poured hot tea from a pot by the fire. "Drink this. It will warm you." Beatrice took the cup. It was not fine china like at home. It was thick clay, made to last. Like this house, like her aunt. "You can stay," her aunt said. "As long as you need. I have the room." "Thank you," Beatrice said. She felt the first small weight lift from her chest. At least she had a place to sleep. The days passed slow in the small stone house. Beatrice spent most of them by the window in her little room, looking out at the wild hills. Sometimes it rained. Sometimes the sun shone. She watched it all, but felt apart from it. Her aunt left her alone most of the time. Food would appear at her door, clean clothes, but no words, no pushing to talk or do. A week passed, then another. Beatrice did not read, did not sew, did not play music. All the things a lady should do seemed empty now. What was the point? Who was she trying to please? One morning her aunt knocked on her door. "Enough," she said. "You've had your time to hide. Now come out." Beatrice looked up. "I am not hiding." "You are," her aunt said, "and I understand why. The world hurt you. But sitting here will not fix anything." "What would you have me do?" Beatrice asked. "I have nowhere to go. No future to plan for." Her aunt sat on the edge of the bed. "That's not true. You have a life still to live. Just not the one you thought you would have." "I don't know how to live any other way," Beatrice said. And it was true. She'd been raised to be one thing, a proper wife. Now she could not be that. What else was there? "Then learn," her aunt said. "I did. When I was young. They tried to make me just like you, proper, quiet, ready to be given to some man who wanted my father's money or name." "What happened?" Beatrice asked. She had heard whispers about her aunt all her life, but never the full story. "I said no," her aunt said simply. "I left. I went to places women are not supposed to go. I learned things women are not supposed to know. I lived my own life." "And were you happy?" Beatrice asked. Her aunt smiled. It made the lines around her eyes crinkle. "Most days," which is more than most people can say. Beatrice looked back out the window. The wild hills seemed a little less scary now, a little more like freedom. "I don't know who I am," she said softly, "if I am not the proper lady they made me." "That's the big question," her aunt said, "and the good news is you get to find out." The next day, Beatrice came down to breakfast. Her aunt looked up, surprised. "I thought I might help with something today," Beatrice said. "If there is anything to do." "There's always something to do," her aunt said. "Life doesn't stop just because hearts break." She showed Beatrice how to make bread, how to feed the chickens that lived behind the house. Simple things, things Beatrice had never done before. Her hands got dirty, her hair fell loose, and for a little while she forgot to be sad. That night she found a book on her bed. It was old and worn at the edges. The title said Tales of Far Places. "I thought you might like to read something," her aunt said at dinner. "That was my first book of travels. It made me want to see the world." Beatrice touched the book gently. "I always loved to read, but Mother said I should not read too much." "Men don't like women who know too many things," her aunt snorted. "The right ones do." That night, Beatrice read by candlelight. The book told of places she'd never heard of. people who lived in ways she could not imagine. As she read, a small warm feeling grew in her chest. It felt like the first tiny spark of a new fire. The next morning she asked her aunt, "Did you really go to all these places in the book?" "Most of them," her aunt said, "and more besides." "Tell me," Beatrice said. And for the first time in weeks she truly wanted to hear something, to learn something. Her aunt's stories filled the day, tales of ships and storms, of cities with strange smells and sounds, of people who had different gods and ways. Beatrice listened, her eyes wide. "You did all this alone?" she asked. "Without a man to help you?" "I did," her aunt said. "And yes, it was hard sometimes, but it was my life, my choice. That made it worth every hard day." That night, Beatrice looked at herself in the small mirror in her room. Her face was the same, but her eyes looked different, less empty. There was a question in them now, a hunger. Who was she, if not the girl who was meant to marry well? What could she do, if not the things proper ladies did? Where could she go, if not the path that had been laid out for her? She did not know the answers yet, but for the first time since that night at the ball she wanted to find out. 1 month turned into 2. The cold winds of fall gave way to the chill of early winter. Beatrice woke each day with the sun and went to bed tired from real work. Her hands, once soft and white, now had small calluses. Her face, once pale from staying indoors, now had colour from the wind and sun. "Come with me," Aunt Margaret said one morning after breakfast. "I want to show you something." Beatrice followed her aunt down a narrow hall she'd not been in before. At the end was a small wooden door. Aunt Margaret took a key from her pocket and opened it. "This is my special room," she said. Beatrice stepped inside and gasped. Books, more books than she had ever seen in one place. They filled shelves that went from floor to ceiling on every wall. They sat in stacks on the floor. Some looked very old, some looked new. "You have a library," Beatrice said, her voice full of wonder. "I do," her aunt said with pride. "I've gathered these books over 40 years, from all my travels, from friends who send them to me. Each one is a piece of the world I wanted to know." Beatrice walked slowly around the room. She touched the spines of the books with gentle fingers. Some had words in languages she did not know. Some had pictures on their covers of strange places and people. "May I read them?" she asked, hardly daring to hope. "That's why I'm showing you," her aunt said. "It's time you fed that mind of yours with more than rules about being proper." Each day after that, Beatrice spent hours in the library. She read books about far-off lands, books about how things worked, books about ideas that made her head spin, books that no proper lady was supposed to read. "What's this one about?" she asked her aunt one evening, holding up a book with a plain cover. "Ah," her aunt said with a small smile. "That one is about how women should have the same rights as men. The right to own things, the right to vote, the right to live as they choose." Beatrice opened it with care. "Mother would faint if she knew I was reading this." "That's why she never learned anything worth knowing," her aunt said. "She was too afraid of what others would think." Day by day, Beatrice's mind grew bigger. She learned about stars and how they moved. She learned about plants and what they could heal. She learned about places where women did work that only men did back home. "Did you know there are women who are doctors?" she asked her aunt one day, looking up from her book. "I do," her aunt said. "I met one in France. She saved a child's life when no man could." "But they told us women cannot be doctors," Beatrice said. "That our minds are not made for such hard thinking," her aunt laughed. It was a big, free sound. "They told us many things that are not true, to keep us small, to keep us quiet." As winter settled in, they spent long evenings by the fire. Aunt Margaret would tell stories of her travels. Beatrice would ask questions that grew smarter each day. "When did you know," Beatrice asked one night, "that you would not live the life they planned for you?" Her aunt stared into the fire. "I was 16. My father told me I was to marry a man older than him, a man with money but mean eyes. I saw my mother, who had no say in her life. I saw my sisters, married to men they barely knew. I saw my future like a trap closing around me." She looked at Beatrice. "That very night I packed a small bag and climbed out my window. I had £10 I had saved. I walked 4 miles to the coach stop and bought a ticket as far as my money would take me." "Weren't you scared?" Beatrice asked. Terrified, her aunt said, but not as scared as I was of living a life that was not mine. The next day a letter came. Beatrice knew the writing. It was from her mother. She wants me to come home, Beatrice said after reading it. Father has found another match for me. Not as good as Lord James, but still a gentleman. She says I must put the past behind me and do my duty. And will you? Her aunt asked. Her voice was calm, but her eyes watched Beatrice close. Beatrice looked down at the letter. 6 months ago she would have said yes. She would have packed her things and gone back to be the proper lady they wanted. No, she said. The word felt strange on her lips, a word she had not used much before. No, I will not, her aunt smiled. Good. Now you must write and tell her so. Writing the letter was hard. Beatrice wrote and crossed out words many times. In the end, she kept it short. I am not coming back. I am learning who I am. I send my love but not my obedience. As winter eased into early spring, Beatrice began to help in the small village near her aunt's house. She taught the children of farmers to read. She helped the old wise woman who knew about plants and healing. You have a good mind for this, the old woman told her one day, as they made a drink to ease pain from dried plants. You listen and remember. I never knew there was so much to learn, Beatrice said. So much that is real and useful. The old woman nodded. The world is full of things to know. Most never try to know them. One bright day, when the first flowers were pushing through the last snow, a wagon came to the village. In it was a man with books and papers to sell. News from the big cities, stories from other places. Beatrice bought a small book of poems with money she had earned from teaching. As the man wrapped it for her, he said, You have the look of a learned lady, not what one expects to find in such a far place. I am learning, Beatrice said, but I have far to go. There's a school 3 days' ride from here, the man said. In the big town, they let women study there. Not all subjects, but more than most places. Beatrice felt her heart beat faster. A school, a place to learn more than she could from books alone. Thank you for telling me, she said. That night she told her aunt about the school. I've heard of it, Aunt Margaret said. It has a good name. The man who started it believed women's minds are as strong as men's. Do you think I could go there? Beatrice asked. The idea both scared and thrilled her. Why not? Her aunt said. You have a sharp mind, and I have some money put away. Not much, but enough for school fees, perhaps. Beatrice shook her head. I would not take your money. It's not taking if it's freely given, her aunt said. Besides, what better use for it than to help you make your own way? That night, Beatrice looked out her window at the stars. So many of them, so far away. Once her world had been so small, a few rooms, a few streets, a few people who all thought the same way. Now her world grew bigger each day, with each book she read, each new thing she learned, each time she said no to the old life and yes to the new. She did not know yet what she would become, a teacher, a healer, something she had not even heard of yet. But for the first time she felt the thrill of choosing for herself. The next morning, a letter came from the village, addressed to her aunt, but with news that made Beatrice's heart race. A doctor is coming to the big house, her aunt told her, a man from Italy who has studied new ways of healing. Lord Wilson has gout and has called him in. A doctor from Italy, Beatrice said. She thought of all she'd read about that sunny land, of the art and learning there. They say he speaks at the town hall tomorrow night, her aunt went on, about new findings in medicine. It's open to all who wish to hear. She looked at Beatrice with a small smile. Perhaps we should go. It would be good for your learning. Beatrice felt a strange flutter in her chest, like a bird testing its wings. Yes, she said. I would like that very much. The town hall was a plain building made of grey stone. It was not grand like the places Beatrice had known in London, but tonight it was full of people, farmers and shopkeepers, the mayor and his wife. Even Lord Wilson from the big house on the hill had come, though he sat apart from the rest. So many people, Beatrice said. She had not been in a crowd since that night at the ball. Her hands shook a little. People are hungry for new ideas, Aunt Margaret said. Even here. They found seats near the back. Beatrice wore her best dress, which was not very fine anymore, but she'd washed her hair until it shone and pinned it up neat. She told herself it was just to be proper. But a small voice inside knew she wanted to look nice for other reasons. A hush fell as a man walked to the front of the room. He was not very tall, but he stood straight and sure. His hair was dark, his face kind. When he spoke, his voice had a music to it that told of far places. "Good evening," he said. "I am Dr. Alessandro Rossi from Florence, Italy. I thank you for coming to hear me speak." Beatrice leaned forward. She had read of Florence in her aunt's books, a place of art and learning. Dr. Rossi began to talk about new ways to keep people from getting sick, about washing hands and clean water, about fresh air and good food. Simple things, he said, that could save many lives. "In my country," he said, "we have found that many of the old ways of healing are not the best ways. We must look with new eyes. We must test our ideas to see if they are true." A man at the front called out, "But the old ways worked for our fathers and their fathers. Why change?" Dr. Rossi smiled. It was a warm smile that lit his eyes. "Because we can do better. Because we can save more lives." Beatrice found herself nodding. It was just what she had been learning from her aunt and her books. The old ways were not always best. New ideas could make life better. After he finished talking, people came up to ask questions. Lord Wilson wanted to know about his gout. A farmer asked about his sick cow. Dr. Rossi answered each one with care. Beatrice waited, not sure if she should speak. Then she found herself standing. "Sir," she said, her voice small but clear, "you spoke of testing ideas. How do you know which ideas to test?" Dr. Rossi looked at her. His eyes were bright and smart. "Ah, a good question. We start with what we can see and touch. We watch close. We write down what happens. Then we ask, why did it happen that way?" Beatrice thought of all the things she had been taught that were not true. That women's minds were weak. That a lady's worth was in her face and family. Ideas no one ever tested. "Thank you," she said. "That makes good sense." Dr. Rossi looked at her a moment longer. "You have a mind that asks good questions. That is rare." Beatrice felt her face grow warm. No one had ever praised her mind before. Later, as people were leaving, Dr. Rossi came over to where Beatrice stood with her aunt. "I hope I answered your question well," he said to Beatrice. "You did," she said. "I have been reading much lately about new ideas, about how we can learn what is really true. Not just what we are told." Dr. Rossi's eyebrows went up. "Indeed? And what have you been reading?" Beatrice told him about some of the books in her aunt's library. His face lit up. "You have read Signor Galileo's work, and Newton? Most men have not read these, let alone." "A woman?" Beatrice said when he stopped. He smiled. "Forgive me. In Italy there are some women who study and learn, but even there it is not common." "It is the same here," Aunt Margaret said. "My niece has had to find her own way to learning." "Then she has done well," Dr. Rossi said. "I would be happy to lend you some books I have brought with me if you wish. New works from Italy and France." Beatrice could hardly believe it. "I would like that very much. I am staying at Lord Wilson's house for 2 weeks," Dr. Rossi said. "Perhaps you could come tomorrow. I will have the books ready." The next day, Beatrice walked the 3 miles to Lord Wilson's house. It was a fine old place, but not as grand as the homes she had known in London. A servant led her to a small room full of books. Dr. Rossi was there, looking out the window. "Ah, you came," he said, turning with a smile. "I was not sure if you would." "I would not miss the chance to see new books," Beatrice said. They talked of books and ideas. He told her of his school in Florence, where he had learned to be a doctor. She told him of her aunt's travels. The time went fast. "You have a quick mind," Dr. Rossi said. "You see things clear." "My father wanted me to be pretty and quiet," Beatrice said. "He never knew I read his books when he was away." Dr. Rossi shook his head. What a waste that would have been. A mind is like a garden. It must be used to grow. When it was time to go, he gave her 3 books. "These are new works on how the body heals itself. I think you will find them of interest." "Thank you," Beatrice said. "I will take good care of them." "I know you will," he said. "And perhaps, when you have read them, you will come again. I would value your thoughts." Beatrice felt that flutter in her chest again, like a bird testing wings too long kept still. I would like that. In the next 2 weeks, Beatrice went to Lord Wilson's house 5 times. Each time she and Dr. Rossi talked of books and ideas. He told her of new findings in medicine. She told him of the plants the old village woman used for healing. "You know," he said one day, "in Italy there are women who work with doctors. They learn the science and help with the healing." "Really?" Beatrice could not hide her surprise. Women can do such work. They can, he said, and do it well. On her last visit, they walked in the garden. Spring was coming on strong now. Flowers pushed up from the dark earth. I leave tomorrow, Dr. Rossi said, back to London and then to Italy. Beatrice felt a strange sadness. I will miss our talks. As will I, he said. In my work I meet many men of learning, but few have your fresh way of seeing. They stopped by a small stream that ran through the garden. There is to be a meeting in the town next week, Dr. Rossi said. Learned men from London and the north talking of new ideas. I have asked that you and your aunt be allowed to come. Beatrice looked up, surprised. But we are not learned men, Dr. Rossi laughed. No, but you have minds that seek to learn. That is what matters. Will they let us in? Beatrice asked. Women are not welcome at such meetings. I have some say in the matter, Dr. Rossi said, and I say you should be there. Beatrice thought of how far she'd come, from a girl who sat quiet while men talked to a woman asked to join in the talk. Thank you, she said. I will be there. As they walked back to the house, Dr. Rossi said, May I write to you when I'm back in Italy? I would like to know what you think of the books I gave you. Beatrice felt her heart beat faster. I would like that very much. That night she told her aunt about the meeting and the letter writing. Be careful, my dear, Aunt Margaret said. The world is changing, but not so fast as we might wish. There are still those who would not like to see a woman step out of her place. I know, Beatrice said, but I cannot go back to who I was. I cannot unknow what I have learned. Her aunt smiled. Good. Just know that each step forward may meet pushback. The night before the meeting, Beatrice stood before her small mirror. She was not the same girl who had stood in her fine blue dress waiting to be given to a man she hardly knew. Her face was the same, but her eyes were different. They had seen more, learned more. They looked out at the world now, not down at the floor. Who are you now? She whispered to her mirror self. The answer came, not in words, but in feelings. She was a woman who asked questions, who read books men said she should not read, who talked of ideas as an equal, who might one day do work that mattered. She was becoming herself, and that was both wonderful and scary. The next morning she put on her best dress again. It was still not very fine, but it did not matter so much now. Ready? Her aunt asked as they prepared to leave for the meeting. Beatrice took a deep breath. Yes, she said. I am ready to step back into the world, but this time on my own terms. The meeting hall was filled with men in dark coats. Their voices made a low hum like bees. When Beatrice and her aunt walked in, the hum stopped. All eyes turned to look at them. Perhaps this was a mistake, Beatrice whispered. Stand tall, Aunt Margaret said. You have as much right to learn as any man here. They found seats at the back of the room. Beatrice could feel the stares, the whispers, but she kept her head high. She was not here to please anyone. She was here to learn. A tall man with white hair walked to the front. Welcome to our spring meeting, he said. Today we have guests from London and Cambridge to share new ideas. The first man talked about stars, about how they moved in the sky. Beatrice listened hard. She had read about stars in her aunt's books, but hearing someone who had really studied them was different. Then a young man talked about rocks, about how some rocks had marks in them that looked like plants and fish. What could this mean? Beatrice leaned forward, caught up in the puzzle. I see you found your way, said a voice beside her. She turned. Dr. Rossi stood there smiling. He looked tired, like he had been travelling hard. I thought you had gone back to London, Beatrice said. I did, he said, sitting next to her, but I came back for the meeting. I wanted to make sure you were welcomed. Something warm bloomed in Beatrice's chest. He had come back for her, to make sure she could be part of this world of ideas. After the meeting, Dr. Rossi asked if Beatrice and her aunt would join him for tea at the small inn. I would like to show you some drawings I have made, he said, of plants that heal. I think you would find them of interest. The inn was a cosy place with a fire burning in the stone fireplace. They sat at a small table by the window. Outside, spring rain fell soft and steady. Dr. Rossi took a book from his bag. These are my notes from my travels, he said, opening it. Beatrice gasped. The pages were filled with drawings. Plants with their leaves and roots shone clear. notes in small, neat writing beside each one. "These are wonderful," she said. "So much detail." "I try to draw what I see, not what I think I see," Dr. Rossi said. "That is the first rule of science." They spent 2 hours looking at the drawings. Dr. Rossi told stories of finding rare plants in high mountains. Beatrice told him about plants the old woman in the village used for healing. "You have learned much in your short time here," Dr. Rossi said. "I have always loved to learn," Beatrice said. "But before, I had to hide it." Dr. Rossi shook his head. "In Italy, there are places where women's minds are valued. Not everywhere, but in some circles. In Florence, there are salons where men and women talk as equals about art and science." "It sounds like a dream," Beatrice said. "It is real," Dr. Rossi said. "I have seen it, been part of it." The next day, Dr. Rossi asked if Beatrice would show him the old abbey ruins near the village. "I have heard they are most interesting," he said. It was a clear spring day. The sky was so blue it hurt to look at it. Birds sang in the trees, flowers dotted the green grass. The abbey ruins stood on a small hill. Stone walls rose up, but the roof was long gone. Windows that once held coloured glass were empty eyes looking at the sky. "It is 800 years old," Beatrice said. "The village people say monks lived here and helped the sick." Dr. Rossi walked slowly around the walls. His hand touched the old stones with care. "Think of the knowledge that was here," he said. "The books they must have had. The healing plants they grew." "My aunt says they knew things we have forgotten," Beatrice said. They sat on a fallen stone in the sun. Dr. Rossi took bread and cheese from his bag. "I thought we might get hungry," he said with a smile. They ate and talked. About books, about places they had read about ideas that made the world make sense. "In school, they said the body has 4 humours," Dr. Rossi said. "Blood, yellow bile, black bile, and phlegm. But when I cut open a body to learn—" "You cut open a body?" Beatrice asked, eyes wide. "Yes, to learn how it works," Dr. Rossi said. "That is how we find truth. We look with our own eyes." "And what did you see?" Beatrice asked. She should have been shocked. A proper lady would have been shocked. But she was not proper anymore. She was curious. Dr. Rossi smiled. "I saw a wonder, a machine more complex than any clock. Each part with its job. Each job needed for life." The sun moved across the sky as they talked. Beatrice had never talked so much with a man before, had never been asked what she thought, what she believed, what she wondered about. "It grows late," Dr. Rossi said at last. "We should start back." As they walked down the hill, dark clouds rolled in. The blue sky turned grey. The wind picked up. "I think we are in for a storm," Dr. Rossi said, looking up. They were still a mile from the village when the rain began. Not a gentle spring rain, but a hard, driving rain that soaked through clothes in minutes. "There," Beatrice pointed to a small stone hut used by shepherds. "We can wait there." They ran to the hut. It was small and bare but dry. A stone bench ran along one wall. The roof was sound. "Well," Dr. Rossi said, shaking water from his coat. "This is an adventure." Beatrice laughed. She was soaked to the skin. Her hair had come loose and hung wet around her face. Once she would have been mortified to be seen this way. Now it seemed funny. "You are laughing," Dr. Rossi said, smiling. "I am," Beatrice said. 6 months ago I would have cried to be so improper. "And now?" "Now I see it does not matter," Beatrice said. "Wet or dry, proper or not, I'm still me." Dr. Rossi looked at her for a long moment. "You are remarkable," he said softly. The word hung in the air between them. Remarkable. Not pretty, not proper, not well-bred. Remarkable. They sat side by side on the stone bench waiting for the rain to stop. Dr. Rossi told her about his home in Florence, about the river that ran through it, about the great dome of the cathedral that rose above the red roofs. "It sounds beautiful," Beatrice said. "It is," Dr. Rossi said. "But beauty is not why I love it. I love it because it is a place of ideas, of learning, of looking forward, not back." The rain stopped as suddenly as it had started. The sun came out, making the wet world shine. They walked back to the village in comfortable quiet. Beatrice felt a strange peace, like she had found something she had not known she was looking for. At her aunt's gate, Dr. Rossi stopped. "I must go back to London tomorrow," he said, But I have one more thing I would like to show you if you have time." "I have time," Beatrice said. "Good," he smiled. "Meet me at the old oak by the river at 10 o'clock. The next morning Beatrice found Dr. Rossi waiting under the oak tree. He had a large leather case with him. "What is that?" she asked. "A looking glass," he said, opening the case. "But not for looking at yourself. Inside was a brass tube with glass at each end." "It is for looking at the stars," Dr. Rossi said, "at things too far to see with just our eyes." He showed her how to set it up on its stand, how to look through the small end. "Now look at that tree across the river," he said, "the one with the birds in it." Beatrice looked. The tree jumped up close. She could see each leaf, each bird, things too far to see with just her eyes. "Oh," she said, "it's like magic." "Not magic," Dr. Rossi said, "science. We use what we know about light and glass to see farther." He showed her how to look at far hills, at clouds, at a boat so far down the river she could barely see it with her eyes alone. "With this, I've seen mountains on the moon," Dr. Rossi said, "rings around Saturn, stars no one knew were there." "It makes the world bigger," Beatrice said, "yet smaller too, like we can reach out and touch far things." "Yes," Dr. Rossi said, looking at her with warm eyes, "that is exactly right." They sat by the river as the day grew warm. Dr. Rossi told her about his work in London, about the sick he had helped, about the new things he had learned. "I have been asked to teach at the school in Florence," he said, "to share what I have learned about healing." "That is wonderful," Beatrice said. But her heart felt heavy. He would go far away. Their talks would end. "I have also been thinking," Dr. Rossi said, looking out at the river, "about how minds need other minds to grow, how ideas get better when shared." "Yes," Beatrice said. "I have learned more in these few weeks of talking with you than in all my years before." Dr. Rossi turned to her. "I leave for Italy in 1 month. Before I go, I would like to show you London, the museums, the Royal Society, places where learning lives." Beatrice caught her breath. "You want me to go to London? But I cannot. I have no place there now, no name that is not marked by shame." "You would go as my friend and fellow seeker of knowledge," Dr. Rossi said. "Nothing more, nothing less." "What would people say?" Beatrice asked. "Does it matter now?" Dr. Rossi asked gently. "You who have broken so many rules already?" Beatrice looked down at her hands, hands that had learned to work, to turn pages of forbidden books, to draw plants and stars, hands that had found their own strength. "No," she said at last. "It does not matter any more." She looked up at him, at his kind eyes, his face that lit up when he talked of ideas and learning. "I will go to London," she said. "I will see these places of learning." Dr. Rossi smiled. It was like the sun coming out. "Good," he said. "Very good." London was not as Beatrice remembered it. Or perhaps it was she who had changed. The tall buildings, the crowds of people, the noise and smell and rush. Once it had been her whole world. Now it felt like a strange place she was seeing with new eyes. "It is too much after the quiet of the country," she said to Dr. Rossi, as their coach rolled through the busy streets. "It can be," he agreed, "but there are quiet places too, places of learning and beauty." They stayed at the home of Dr. Rossi's friend, a kind old man who taught at a school for doctors. His house was full of books and strange things in glass jars. Beatrice might have once been scared of such things. Now she found them interesting. "Tomorrow I will take you to the museum," Dr. Rossi said at dinner. "They have things from all over the world, plants and animals and rocks you have only read about." Beatrice could hardly sleep that night. The thought of seeing such wonders made her heart race like a child's on Christmas Eve. The museum was a huge building with tall columns out front. Inside, the rooms went on and on. Each one was filled with things more amazing than the last. Bones of huge animals that no longer lived on Earth, rocks that glowed in the dark, plants dried and pressed from far jungles. "I could spend days here," Beatrice said, her eyes wide as she looked at a case of butterflies with wings as big as her hand. "There is time," Dr. Rossi said. "We have a week." Each day brought new wonders. They went to gardens where plants from all over the world grew. They went to a place where men looked at the stars through big tubes like the one Dr. Rossi had shown her, but much larger. They went to a room where men talked about new ideas, and no one seemed to mind that Beatrice was there, listening and sometimes asking questions. "You are opening doors I never knew were there," she told Dr. Rossi as they walked through a garden of healing plants, "showing me a world I did not know existed." "It has always been here," he said, "waiting for minds that want to learn." One evening, as they were leaving a talk about far-off lands, Beatrice saw a face she knew, Lord James, the man who had left her standing alone that night at the ball. He was older, his face more lined. He stood talking to two other men. "What is wrong?" Dr. Rossi asked, seeing her face change. "That man," Beatrice said, her voice low. "He was to be my husband, before—" Dr. Rossi looked where she pointed. "Ah, the man who threw away a pearl for a bit of gold." "We should go another way," Beatrice said. She did not want to face Lord James, not here, not now. But it was too late. Lord James had seen her. His eyes widened. He said something to the men he was with and walked toward her. "Lady Beatrice," he said with a small bow, "this is a surprise." Beatrice stood straight. Her heart beat fast, but she would not show fear. "Lord James," she said, her voice cool, "it has been some time." Lord James looked her up and down. "Indeed. I heard you had gone to live in the country, with your aunt, I believe." "I did," Beatrice said. "It was the best choice I ever made." Lord James looked at Dr. Rossi with narrowed eyes. "And who is your friend?" "This is Dr. Alessandro Rossi," Beatrice said. "From Florence, a man of great learning." Dr. Rossi gave a small bow. "Sir?" Lord James did not bow back. "I see. And what brings you to London, Lady Beatrice? Shopping for new dresses? Looking for a new match, perhaps?" His voice had a mean edge to it. Beatrice felt anger rise in her chest. Once his words would have cut her like knives, made her feel small and wrong, but not now. "I am here to learn, Lord James," she said, "to see the wonders of the world, to feed my mind with new ideas." Lord James laughed, but it was not a nice laugh. "Feed your mind? What odd talk for a lady. But then, you're not the lady you once were, are you?" Dr. Rossi stepped forward. "Sir, you forget yourself." Lord James ignored him. "I heard your father lost everything, that he died a broken man. Is that true?" Beatrice felt as if she'd been hit. "My father is dead?" No one had told her. No letter had come. Lord James's face changed. "You did not know? I am sorry to be the one to tell you. It was 2 months ago. They say his heart gave out." Beatrice felt the world spin. Her father, for all his faults, was the only father she had, and now he was gone, and she had not known. "I think we should go," Dr. Rossi said quietly. "This is not the time or place for such news." "Yes, take your foreign doctor and go," Lord James said. "But know this, Lady Beatrice, the world has not forgotten your shame, nor will it." Beatrice looked at him, at his cold eyes, his tight mouth. Once, she had thought she would spend her life with this man, bear his children, grow old in his house. The thought made her feel sick now. "My shame," she said, her voice growing stronger. "What of yours, Lord James? You stood before all our friends and threw me away like a toy you no longer wanted, because my father had no gold to give you." Lord James's face went red. "Your father lied. He tried to trick me." "He did wrong," Beatrice agreed, "but so did you. You did not love me. You never even knew me. You wanted a pretty wife with a fat purse, nothing more." People around them had stopped to listen. Lord James looked at them and then back at Beatrice. "You've grown bold in the country," he said. "Too bold for a woman?" "No," Beatrice said. "I have grown true, to myself, and I see now what a small life I would have had with you. How my mind would have died in your house like a plant kept in the dark." She turned to Dr. Rossi. "I am ready to leave now." Outside, in the cool night air, Beatrice finally let tears come. "I did not know about my father," she said. "No one wrote to tell me." Dr. Rossi handed her his handkerchief. "I am sorry. It is hard news to hear, and in such a way." They walked in silence for a time. The stars came out above the city smoke. "You faced him with great courage," Dr. Rossi said at last. "Did I?" Beatrice asked. "It did not feel like courage. It felt like truth." "Often they are the same," Dr. Rossi said. Back at the house, Beatrice sat by the fire. The meeting with Lord James had shaken her. Not because she still cared for him. That feeling was long dead. But because it made her think of all she had left behind. her family, her home. The path that had been laid out for her since birth. Dr. Rossi sat across from her. "A hard day," he said. "Perhaps tomorrow we should rest." Beatrice looked into the fire. He was right about one thing. "I am not the lady I once was." "Is that bad?" Dr. Rossi asked. "No," Beatrice said after a moment. "It is good. I like who I am now better, even if the world does not." They sat in silence for a time, then Dr. Rossi spoke. "I leave for Florence in 2 weeks," he said, "to take up my post at the school." Beatrice felt her heart sink. She had known this day would come, had tried not to think about it. "I will miss our talks," she said. "As will I," Dr. Rossi said. He looked at her for a long moment. "Beatrice, I have a question to ask you, one I have thought about for many days." Something in his voice made Beatrice's heart beat faster. "Yes." "Would you consider coming to Florence?" Dr. Rossi asked. "Not as my wife or anything you do not wish to be, but as my friend, my fellow seeker of knowledge." Beatrice stared at him. "Go to Italy? Leave England?" "Yes," Dr. Rossi said. "In Florence there are women who study, who work with their minds, who teach even. Not many, but some. You could be one of them." "But I know so little," Beatrice said. "You know more than you think," Dr. Rossi said, "and you have a gift for learning, for seeing clear, for asking the right questions." Beatrice looked down at her hands, hands that had learned to do so many new things. "It is a big step," she said, "to leave all I know." "It is," Dr. Rossi agreed. "I would not rush your choice. Think on it. Pray on it if you wish, but know that there is a place for you in Florence. If you want it." That night, Beatrice could not sleep. Her mind was too full. Images flashed before her eyes. The small stone house where she'd found herself again. The Abbey ruins where she and Dr. Rossi had talked of ideas. Lord James's cold face, a ghost from a life that no longer fit her, and new images too. Streets she'd never walked, buildings she'd only read about, a life she could hardly imagine, in a place where women were allowed to think and learn and do. In the dark, a choice lay before her. Stay in the land she knew, live a small, safe life in her aunt's house, maybe teach the village children, grow old among people who would always see her as the girl who was cast off, or step into the unknown, go to a land whose language she did not speak, whose ways she did not know, but where she might grow in ways she could not yet see. By morning, Beatrice knew what she must do. She found Dr. Rossi in the garden, looking at plants. "I have made my choice," she said. Dr. Rossi looked up. His face was calm, but his eyes were worried. "And what have you decided?" Beatrice took a deep breath. "I will go to Florence," she said. "I will see what life can be in a place where minds are valued more than names or gold." Dr. Rossi's face broke into a wide smile. "You have chosen your own fate," he said. "Not the one given to you, but the one you want." "Yes," Beatrice said. And for the first time in her life she felt truly free. The small church was not like the grand one where Beatrice had once thought she would be married. This church had simple stone walls, plain wooden benches, windows that let in the clear morning light. But to Beatrice it was more beautiful than any fine London church. Aunt Margaret stood beside her, smiling with tears in her eyes. "Are you sure, my dear?" she asked. "Once done, there is no going back." "I am sure," Beatrice said. "More sure than I have ever been of anything." Only 10 people sat in the church. The old wise woman from the village, the family Beatrice had taught to read, Dr. Rossi's friend from London, a few others who had come to mean something to Beatrice in her new life, not a grand crowd like the one that would have watched her marry Lord James, but these people knew her, really knew her. Dr. Rossi waited at the front of the church. His face was calm, but his eyes were bright with joy. He wore a simple dark suit. In his hand he held a small bunch of wild flowers. Beatrice walked down the short aisle. She wore a dress of pale green, like new leaves in spring. Her hair was not done up in fancy curls. It hung loose around her shoulders with just a few white flowers tucked into it. The old priest smiled at them both. "We are here to join these two people," he said, "not as master and servant, not as owner and owned, but as two minds and hearts who choose to walk the same path." The words were not the old ones Beatrice had been taught to expect. Those words had the woman promised to obey the man, to serve him, to be his forever. Instead, she and Dr. Rossi made new promises, to respect each other's minds, to help each other learn and grow, to be partners in all things. "I will not ask you to be less so that I can feel more," Dr. Rossi said, his voice strong and clear. "I will walk beside you, not ahead of you." Beatrice felt tears in her eyes, happy tears. "And I will bring all that I am to our life together," she said. "Not just the parts that please others, but my whole self, my mind and heart both." When the priest said they were now husband and wife, Dr. Rossi did not kiss Beatrice in front of everyone as was the custom. Instead, he took her hand and pressed it gently, a touch between equals, between friends who had become more than friends. The small party after the wedding was held in Aunt Margaret's garden. There was simple food and drink, talk and laughter. No grand show like there would have been at her first wedding. No people there just to see and be seen, only true connections. "When do you leave for Italy?" the old wise woman asked as she sat with Beatrice under the apple tree. "In 3 days," Beatrice said. "The ship sails with the morning tide." "You will do well there," the old woman said. "You have eyes that see and ears that hear. The world opens to those who pay attention." Later, as the sun was setting, Beatrice found a quiet moment with her aunt. "I wish you would come with us," she said. Aunt Margaret shook her head. "My travelling days are done," she said. "This is my home now, but I will visit when these old bones allow." "I will miss you," Beatrice said. "You saved me, in more ways than you know." "No," her aunt said firmly. "You saved yourself. I just gave you a safe place to do it." 3 days later, Beatrice stood on the deck of a ship. The wind pulled at her cloak. The smell of salt was strong in the air. The English shore was fading behind them. Dr. Rossi stood beside her. "Are you afraid?" he asked. "A little," Beatrice said. "But not enough to turn back." "Good," he said. "A little fear keeps us sharp. Too much keeps us small." The sea journey was long. 10 days of rolling waves, of wind and sun, of more shades of blue than Beatrice could name. She spent hours watching the water change as the light moved across it. Other women on the ship stayed in their cabins, came out only when the sea was calm. But Beatrice stood on the deck in all weather, felt the spray on her face, saw dolphins jumping in the ship's wake, watched stars wheel overhead at night. Dr. Rossi taught her their names, showed her how to find her way by them. "The stars are the same," he said, "in England or Italy or the farthest lands. They bind the world together." At last they came to Italy. The port was busy with boats of all sizes. Men shouted in a language Beatrice did not understand. The air smelled of fish and spice and things she could not name. "Welcome to my country," Dr. Rossi said, helping her onto the dock. They took a coach inland. The land here was different from England, drier. The hills were not soft and green but golden brown. Rows of tall, thin trees lined the roads. Fields of grapevines spread out on the hills. "It is so beautiful," Beatrice said, looking out the coach window. "Wait until you see Florence," Dr. Rossi said, "the city of flowers." 2 days later they came to Florence. Beatrice gasped as they topped a hill and saw it spread out below them. Red roofs, tall towers, the great dome of the cathedral rising above it all, the river running through like a silver thread. "Oh," she said, unable to find more words. Their new home was a set of rooms in an old stone building near the university. The ceilings were high. The windows looked out over a small courtyard with a fountain in the middle. The walls were the colour of honey. "It is not grand," Dr. Rossi said, "but it is ours." "It is perfect," Beatrice said. In the days that followed, Beatrice began to learn her new life. The language, the food, the ways of the city. It was hard at first. There were times she felt lost, alone. But Dr. Rossi was patient, and slowly, word by word, step by step, Florence began to feel like home. Dr. Rossi took her to the university where he taught, showed her the rooms where students learned about the body and how to heal it, introduced her to other teachers, men of learning who looked at her with respect when Dr. Rossi spoke of her mind. "You could help me," he said one night as they ate dinner, "with my work, my research. You have a gift for seeing patterns." "Me?" Beatrice said, "but I have no training." "You have a good mind," Dr. Rossi said. "The rest can be learned." And so Beatrice began to work with her husband, reading his notes, drawing plants and their parts, helping him test which ones could heal and which could harm. Other women came to their rooms, wives of other teachers. They too had minds that wanted to learn. They met once a week to talk of books and ideas, to share what they knew. "It is not perfect here," said Maria, one of the women. "We still cannot go to the university as students, still cannot be doctors ourselves, but it is a start." "A start is all we need," Beatrice said. "If we can begin, others can go further." 6 months passed. Spring turned to summer, summer to fall. Beatrice's Italian grew better each day. Her work with Dr. Rossi became more important. She was no longer just helping. She was finding things he had missed, asking questions that led to new answers. One bright full day, a letter came from England, from a man who printed books about plants and healing. "He wants to print my drawings," Beatrice said, reading the letter with wide eyes, "and my notes about which plants help with pain." "Of course he does," Dr. Rossi said. "They are very good, very clear, but I never studied at a university. I'm just a woman who likes plants." "You're a natural philosopher," Dr. Rossi said. "One who studies the world as it is, not as books say it should be." That night, they walked by the river. The water was golden in the setting sun. Church bells rang out across the city. The air smelled of wood smoke and grapes. "Are you happy?" Dr. Rossi asked. "Truly." Beatrice stopped walking, looked at the city around her, at the life she had found, at the man beside her who saw her mind first, her face second. "I am," she said, "in ways I never knew were possible." She thought back to that night at the ball, to the shame and pain, to the feeling that her life was over. "What seemed like the worst night of my life was really the first night of a better one," she said. "If Lord James had married me, I would never have known what I could be. What I could do, I would have lived in a cage made of other people's ideas." "And now?" Dr. Rossi asked. "Now I live in the wide world," Beatrice said, "with its pain and joy both. I am not just someone's wife or daughter, I am myself." Dr. Rossi smiled, took her hand as they walked on. "And who is that?" he asked. "Who are you now?" "Beatrice Rossi." Beatrice looked up at the first stars appearing in the sky. The same stars she had seen from her window as a girl. The same stars that would shine on her aunt in England, on Lord James, on the life she had left behind. "I am a woman who chose her own path," she said. "A woman who fell but got up again. A woman who found her true self not in a mirror, but in books and ideas and work that matters." She squeezed his hand. "And in the eyes of someone who saw me whole." They walked home as night fell over Florence. The lamps were being lit along the streets, making the old city glow with warm light. Beatrice held her letter from the publisher in one hand, Dr. Rossi's hand in the other. "I received word today," he said as they climbed the steps to their rooms. "The university will allow me to teach a small class on plants that heal. I told them I would need an assistant." Beatrice stopped at their door. "And who will that be?" "I was hoping," Dr. Rossi said with a smile, "it might be the woman whose drawings of plants are soon to be in a book." Beatrice felt joy rise in her chest like a bird taking flight. They would allow a woman to help teach. "Not officially," he admitted, "but in my classroom knowledge speaks louder than rules." That night Beatrice sat at her desk by the window. The moon shone bright over the sleeping city. She opened her journal and wrote, "Once, I thought life was a straight path laid out by others. I now see it as a winding road we make with each step. What looks like an ending may be a beginning. What feels like loss may lead to finding something greater. 6 months ago I stood in a ballroom, cast off and shamed. Tonight I sit in a city of learning with work that matters and a heart full of purpose. I do not know what tomorrow will bring, but I know I will meet it as myself. Not as the perfect proper lady they tried to make me, but as the curious, strong woman I have become. And that makes all the difference." She closed her journal and looked out at the stars. The same stars that had watched over her whole journey. Beatrice smiled. She was home at last. Not in a place, but in herself.